coming out of that mid-level cloud. Looking further south and west, you've got the rain, heavy at times to the west coast. Further east it is mild. There's that weak southerly change.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen of the internet? My name is Jade, and you're joining me for the first 2020 Leaders Debate here in New Zealand. I'm going to activate the sound now.
I even have a new clipboard. One of the two women with us tonight will be our Prime Minister for the next 3 years, and what a job.
Two women,
that will be.
One Prime Minister.
Tough times. Speaking of which, we would have had a live studio audience here tonight, but COVID-19 took care of that, as it has impacted on so many things. But we do have our leaders, and we do have a debate, and we do have an election. This is important.
The objective here today, ladies and gentlemen, is I'm going to be reacting.
So if you are deaf or hard of hearing, you can see them on Freeview Channel 200. Freeview Channel 200. Now tonight is a debate. We hope our leaders do debate. We have very much to get through. Speeches will be reluctantly interrupted by yours truly, reluctantly. We tossed a coin. One leader will start the evening, the other will finish it. We'd like to begin with a vision from each of you to really inspire us during these difficult times. So if you are Prime Minister after the election, what
let's go. He's
to look like in 3 years' time? Judith Collins.
Thank you. Well, I love our country, and that's why I do what I do.
Judith Collins loves our country.
There's a better way, and that better way is about growing our economy, getting the money that we need for health and education and everything else that we require, but also encouraging our young people to stay here.
This is a live reaction, by the way, guys. Would love to get your impressions in the chat.
Everything else around that, just actually growing it and having a life here with us and with our grandchildren.
Yeah, we're going to talk a bit about your grandchildren. That was perfectly timed. That was the 30-second ding. That was brilliantly done. We're going to talk about our grandchildren a little bit later on in the program. But Jacinda Ardern, what do you want New Zealand to look like in 3 years' time?
For the huge challenges that the world and indeed New Zealand faces right now.
Look at that overdone makeup and haircut.
A chance to build
Check this out.
and stronger. Now is the time to invest in our people, their skills and training, to create jobs that look after our environment and also support growth in the economy, to back our small businesses and our exporters as they face the future. Now, I know that there is a huge amount of uncertainty right now, and that's why a plan is necessary, but John, so is optimism.
Love that bell. There's like this massive old school ding. Are you wearing a brand new shirt? You might want to tuck your hangers in.
Looking at how we are going to achieve those visions, where we are going over the next 3 years and how we're going to get there. But Judith Collins, and I'm sorry, you're a guest in our whare, and I'm starting on the tough stuff. I apologise.
Friday means house in New Zealand. Just for everybody that doesn't know.
From this evening. So Labour, this is the party vote. Labour on 48, National on 31. We don't have the graphic. We're just going to look at this for a while. But in preferred Prime Minister, Jacinda Ardern 54, you 18. The problem is, in fact, we're going to bring that up.
Preferred Prime Minister.
But the problem...
That's
They
what you
always
said.
do that, Paul.
Yeah.
Judith Collins, there's no momentum. You were 32 last time, you're 31 this time. You were the new broom that was supposed to sweep Labor out.
Well, of course, we've had the second lockdown brought about by failure at the border. That's really obvious that has actually made people think, oh, we better just sort of stay, not do anything. And it's
Failure
also
at the
the
border, I
momentum
love
for
that.
campaigning.
Yeah.
Now we seem to be able to get back campaigning. And tell you what, John, we only had our
Okay,
on
cool.
Sunday. We're getting back out there, and I also see there's a lot of not decideds. So actually, I think there's a huge
Asano,
opportunity
thanks
for
for
us
the
to
advice.
show our
gonna
vision
kick
and show
out
that we have a
audio
much more
down.
positive vision for New Zealand, particularly around building the economy and having a proper border agency in
hopefully you
place.
can hear
So I
us
think it's a
about
good
that.
opportunity for us to
I
get
still
out there
want to be able
and
to
tell you
be
what we're going to
heard,
fight
though.
on.
This is a tough combo, Brunton, though, isn't it? It's really
Thank
tough.
you,
You don't want to be on
Asano.
31 now. You don't want to be on 18, and you don't, do you?
Oh, actually, leaders of the opposition are often in the 18 range, and some of them would have crawled over broken glass to have got that high. I actually think it's a good opportunity for us. You know what, John? I never give up. I'm a fighter. Never give up. Always keep going, and I'm utterly positive
She's
for our
tried to be
country, and I've got a
Prime
vision to
Minister
sell.
3 times.
Thank you, and we look forward to your vision, and we look forward to working out
about not
how we're going to
giving
get
up.
there. Jacinda Ardern, I want to bring you in. So you are on 54 in the preferred Prime Minister, and basically down 5 but to 48 overall as a party. According to Jess Much Mackay at 6 o'clock, Labor can potentially govern alone if you retain these figures, unless we forget it's almost 4 weeks to the election. Do you want to? Do you want the Greens there?
Look, historically, that's just not what MMP elections or MMP in New Zealand has delivered. And I think to make any assumption like that would show complacency, which we just don't have. Every day we will be out there earning every single vote, working hard to get the support of New Zealanders. So I take nothing for granted. I take no poll for granted. And we will keep working every day of this campaign, and you will see no complacency for us and no assumptions.
OK, let's talk about where we're going over the next 3 years. Judith Collins, you'll be delighted we've left Colmar Brunton behind. Where are we going over the next 3 years, and how are we going to get there? Let's pick up on some of the phrases you use. Growing our economy, investing in our people. In order to see New Zealand grow, we either have to open the borders or we have to come up with really meaningful plan Bs. Tell me about the border, Jacinda Ardern. When do you think it will be open? Have you any sense when it will be business as usual?
Well, I think first of all we have to acknowledge that our COVID response has been successful, and the reason for that has been because of the strength at our border. It is our greatest risk. So that's why the plan there needs to be very tightly managed and controlled. What we've seen, though, John, over time is actually the number of citizens and residents coming home has started to decrease. We're getting around 14,000 in terms of our capacity a month. Our view is we can start opening up, 10% of that to bring in those really skilled workers that we need to help support and grow our economy. Just today, we made announcements around some of those coming in, specialist skills in horticulture, in our fishing industry, areas where we need that support. So that will be part of our managed plan around the border, but we also need to retrain and support New Zealanders for those jobs too.
Are you still looking at elimination? Are we looking at elimination? What are we trying to achieve?
We're trying to achieve an open economy, because you can see, relative to other countries, our open economy has allowed us to get back to some sense of normality when the rest of the world has been in some really severe restrictions and significant loss of life. And so, yes, we have a stamp it out regime. It means every time we see cases, we move very quickly. That's how, in a global pandemic, we can get back to as normal as possible.
How do we make this work, Judith Collins? What would you do differently?
Well, for a start, we put out our very comprehensive border plan today, have a border protection agency that's dedicated to that, being able to actually partner with some of the private providers as long as we're absolutely certain that they are fulfilling their requirements, but also making sure that we charge a contribution towards the cost of quarantine managed isolation. I think that's absolutely crucial, because otherwise we've got about $600 million being allocated by December this year for the cost of it, and we think people should contribute towards it. We also think that there's an opportunity here. We know there's an opportunity for skilled professionals to come in, particularly those in need in the horticultural area, but in other industries. And we need to be able to do that.
You're agreeing with each other, aren't you?
Well, no, we're saying that you need a proper border protection agency, and that we need to be able to charge for it. We wouldn't let people on a plane, for instance, unless they've had a negative COVID-19 test. So if we can help prevent that coming in, that will help deal with the other situations that we have.
I think probably the biggest difference, as far as I can ascertain in our plan, John, we have used, obviously, private facilities. We've used hotels because that's the best way we can get safe distance between people who are in them, that we can manage the quarantine. And again, the equivalent of a small town of New Zealand in any given fortnight is in these facilities. Where we're really clear, though, is we've got roughly 4,000 professionals, army personnel, police, health professionals. Those are the most important agents within our border controls to make sure it's safe. And I'm not clear what their role will be in National's plan.
This can't continue. We can't continue taking the police off their work, dealing with family violence and everything else they deal with to do this unless we have a border protection agency where somebody is in charge. All these many agencies all talking to each other, nobody actually in charge. So we need to have someone in charge who everybody reports through to. That's where that border protection agency would come in. And yes, the military, yes, the police would all work to that, but someone needs to be in charge. And that's one of the problems that Ms Ardern's had with her situation with, people being able to go from Auckland to Wellington and all sorts of things and go AWOL. That's the problem. And we need to also have COVID testing actually happen. So the testing of the border staff, we had 2 months of Ms Ardern telling us they were being tested and they weren't.
Look, my response to that would be quite simple. Actually, we've had 50,000 people. We've had 8 incidents across 50,000 people, and that has been because we have involved the likes of the police. We have involved the Defence Force. That's been a really important part of running a really tight ship.
Okay.
That is our biggest risk, so we do need to be careful.
I'm getting the wind, and we've got to go to an ad break. I blame the shareholder for that. Some money is required. But I just want to try and get some clarity on where we are with letting people in. So let's think of the avatar exemption, right? Yeah. So these are not only high net worth individuals, because actually it's got to be meaningful in terms of the jobs they create. How are we going to make that work, and how do we get the line in the sand right? Jacinda Ardern and then Judith Collins.
I'll give you an example. We do need to make sure that we are supporting those industries that have skills gap to bring in New Zealanders. Kiwi fruit industry is a great example, usually really highly reliant on an offshore workforce. And this season we partnered with them. We redeployed those who had lost jobs in other areas to work in the industry. We've supported training so that people can get a micro taste of what it's like to work in industry, and at the same time they've paid decent wages. That's meant we've able to increase the number of New Zealanders in those jobs. If it's highly specialised, yes. There will be occasions when we will use our border exemptions to bring in those who support jobs and support our economy. But right now, we have to just accept that there will be limitations to safe border management.
So the border is going to operate pretty much as it is now. That's what you're saying?
Well, we have had incremental change over time. When capacity is available, we will use 10% to support business and grow our economy outside of citizens and residents.
It's not enough, John. We've got a $9.5 billion industry in horticulture that's crying out for specialist staff to come in, and actually they're not getting even a look in the door with Ms Ardern's policy.
How do we bring them in?
We bring them in, as we say.
That's a high volume workforce, isn't it?
It is a high volume.
So we need a lot of work.
Yeah, and by the way, John, a lot of them come from parts of the world where there is no COVID at all.
They were actually entered today, as well as 500.
Jerry Brownlee has already been able to, he's already put out the policy on it, which would actually been with those people coming from areas where there is no COVID-19 at all. We'd give them the same treatment that Ms Ardern's given to the Australian rugby team. We'd treat them like they were equals.
Judith Collins, Jacinda Ardern, that was a good start and good debate and good to and fro. Less of me, more of you, that is a good thing. Thank you both, we really appreciate it. After the break, we're going to talk about what we need to get right and the opportunity to do big reinventions now, given how up in the air everything is. Stay with us, we may not have it all dense, but we do have questions from a range of New Zealanders tonight. The first of our special guests, I guess, sets down a challenge for the leaders after the break.
I'm gonna need to cut away if there's commercials, obviously. Yep. So the stream can't hear the commercials, but we can. So. Okay. Well, I'm trying to add useful commentary as we go, but so far I've commented on Jacinda's makeup. What about you? Do they have good border plans?
No. No, I don't think they can honestly say what the border plans are, is because they're not the ones who'll be providing that advice. So they rely on others to provide them with that advice, and I don't think that they can. I think it's almost too like Judith's been waiting to see what the other party will do before they announce what they do.
I don't think Judith has been waiting. I think she's had a guts full. She's had a guts full of Jacinda. We get 4 cases, we lock Auckland down. We get 104 cases, we open it up.
No, what I'm saying is what she's been waiting for is waiting to show her cards on what they're actually going to be doing. Yes, she's definitely had a guts for. I definitely don't think she's waiting for Jacinda, but to actually show her cards on what they're going to do and deliver. That's one thing I was thinking.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to say.
Well, we'll try to be within copyright rules in terms of adding our commentary, but I really want to do a bit of an analysis as we go along.
Great. So we're on Twitch tonight?
Yep, we're on Twitch and D-Live. Hello to everyone. So far we've heard from Satan, Asano,
Hey Satan!
Papa Pringle. Thank you all for being here this evening.
It's amazing how it just coincides that there's elections going on around the world right now.
Yeah, I never thought about that really. I'm not so interested in the economy. I'm more interested in sort of plans for evolving industry.
Yes, I love that.
Like, sure, more jobs equals more money, but how are we going to evolve New Zealand's value add to the world? Is it wine? Is it lamb? Is it kiwi fruit? Is it all those things? Are we ever going to talk about the technology sector?
Yeah.
What I don't like is when mental health is used as a political issue, and I think we're going to find that mental health is going to be raised tonight. I can almost guarantee they're not going to talk about disability at all.
There's an interesting article relating to the government though, and what they've announced. So that came out in the last week, and how providers just aren't happy with government mentioning that they'll increase their budget by 1% for the next 3 years.
I'm just paying attention, but we might be going back after this commercial break.
Great. Thank you.
Welcome back to the First Leaders Debate with Jacinda Ardern and Judith Collins. Thank you for your company, and thank you for your company, leaders. In the first break, our leaders' visions for the next 3 years and beyond, discussion about borders, and how we get, where we're going. How do we get to the future that the leaders articulated in their opening statements? Here is our first question. And it's a universal and it's a particular question. We'll start with the particular. Let's hear it. You will have 30 seconds each to respond.
My name is David Smythe. I'm Chief of Medicine and Cardiologist at Christchurch Hospital. Behind me is the world-class Hagley Hospital, which will open 2 years late. This, plus the effects of the earthquake, has led to our deficit of $180 million. As a result, we'll have to continue to look after many people with old facilities on 6-bedded mixed-sex wards, and where people have to share toilet facilities with 6 others. How can you help us?
Jacinda Ardern, we're going to start with you. That seems like a strange question because it seems very particular to Canterbury, and I guess it is, but it's also an infrastructure question.
Yeah.
And it's about playing catch up. And it's about what happens when we don't do the work when we need to do it, right?
Yeah.
So our DHB's total debt, somewhere north of 600 million, newsrooms estimating somewhere north of 800 million. Let's start with the Canterbury example, $180 million deficit. They've got to find cuts of 59 million for the ministry. Do you want to make any suggestions about the cuts they should make?
Two things. I think, firstly, we have to acknowledge that Canterbury has had some very particular and significant challenges. And so with both, of course, the huge residual impact on mental health because of the earthquakes, but also March 15, we have put specific funding in, for instance, programs like Mana Ake, looking after children in primary schools to make sure that they have good mental health support, right through to direct support through the DHB. Then if we pan out, actually the experience that's being spoken of here is not unusual. We have significant infrastructure deficits, record 900 million plus put into our DHB's last budget. We need to keep going with the investment because there's a long rebuild ahead of us with our hospitals.
Judith Collins, what do you say? I've been watching DHB debt mount and mount and mount, and I've interviewed successive ministers about it, and one after another they've said it's fine. And what we're seeing now is that it is not. Our DHBs are breaking under the strain. What happens?
Well, that DHB, that hospital, it cost $500 million. We funded it, started getting it going, and it obviously took a couple of years longer. But clearly, we don't have enough money going into some parts of the system. And what we've heard from Ms Ardern's government is that there's an issue between the Ministry of Health and the DHB. But you know what? People of Canterbury don't care about that. They just want it sorted. I don't understand why that's the problem.
How do you sort it? If there are $180 million in deficit, how do you sort it?
Well, they've sent in Dr Lester Levy. Personally, I would send in Dr Shane Retty as the Minister of Health.
But what would he do? What would he do?
They are going to need to have some extra money. That's pretty obvious.
So would you excuse them their debt? Would you excuse them their debt?
Well, I think we also need to understand is what they're there for. They're there to provide health services for the people of Canterbury, and we're going to have to do that in some cases. So that $500 million that built the hospital, that's 1 week of the wage subsidy from the last lockdown. So that's just how much money is involved in that.
Sorry, so would you excuse them the debt?
Well, we may have to, but I'll tell you what, John, we'd find out what the issue is. And the Ministry of Health under Chris Hipkins has been dealing with it. I'd like them to front up what's been going on.
Would you excuse them the debt?
There are two separate issues here. One, I would say, is New Zealand's infrastructure deficit, be it our schools, be it our hospitals, be it our transport network, where we have not had a consistent pipeline, nor have we had sufficient skills and governance around those infrastructure.
And I want to widen out to
the
that.
Second thing on the DHBs.
Canterbury DHB, $180 million in deficit. The ministry is saying, find me $59 million worth of cuts.
But it is not for lack of significant investment, which is why we've gone back to first principles and said, because the clinicians have told us, we need to look at our health sector as a whole. It is failing our people despite significant investment. If I can finish on this point. Last budget, we put in over $900 million into our DHBs to keep our hospitals going and the lights on. Judith Collins' budget for next year has as an entire operating allowance less than that, 800 million. If we want quality health services and quality education, it does take ongoing investment.
I want to pull out because it seems to me that we're not having the conversation we need to have at the moment. And that conversation is about the kind of infrastructural and social deficits. And we're going to talk about the social deficits in break 3 and 4. So we're going to get to those, the people who are being left behind. But, you know, thank goodness neither of you had to come from the North Shore tonight. So we have, and I remember John Key announcing in 2013 we were going to have a second harbour crossing. And I just wonder, Judith Collins, is now the time to say all bets are off. Let's get the future right starting now.
Exactly, and that's why we announced $31 billion of infrastructure. And one of the things that we said that we would do, announcements, was to do a second harbour crossing as a tunnel. And that would be starting in 2028. So it's a little while yet, but I tell you what, that's because it's a huge job. But also, it is important that we do this. So when Ms Ardern talks about infrastructure in hospitals, actually that hospital is a new hospital, which, by the way, we built. So, yeah, it took some time, and that's what happens with hospitals.
So can I just come back? You know, when you face a crisis like we are now, now is the time when we do need
I
to make
think
sure
of
that
all
we
the
have that
things-
long-term pipeline of
Sorry
infrastructure
about it,
investment.
but
The
why are we
pipeline that
talking
we've
about a
announced is
hospital?
the largest that we've seen in
Ah,
any 5-year period
hospital.
of a
Let's talk
government.
about
But
healthcare.
it needs to go back into those basics, things like health and education services, because I'll be honest, in my term in office, I never anticipated announcing money for pipes and lifts and elevators at Starship, but that is what we have had to rebuild. You have to consistently invest, and your budget has to.
But that's just-
my concern is
That's
that out
just
of
not
national,
fair.
we're not seeing a consistent
We've
plan
just given
of
$31
Judith
billion
Collins.
of transport infrastructure, and by the way, $4.2 billion to rebuild schools that are needed, and also to build new schools. So $4.2 billion. I haven't heard anything from Ms. Ardern about that. What about that?
The question is, we're having a discussion about debt, right? So the Nat said we had an aspirational target
I
of
like
30%
this
of GDP by
psychological
2030.
game
Now
of
it's in the
Ms.
mid-30s by the
36,
mid-30s.
yeah.
Yeah,
Not
36
saying
by the
your name,
mid-30s.
just that.
Labour's is much higher, and you're taking much longer to repay it. Why
wonder
the
if that
hell
was part of
don't
the
we
game.
say, let's do it now?
We are.
We don't have the people.
So give me an example. Give me an example of what you are doing now. And you mentioned our grandchildren before.
Yeah.
So give me an example of what James, who
I
is your son, and
associate
Neve, who is your daughter,
Miss
will be
with somebody
grateful
who's
for in
younger.
20 or 30 years' time.
Well,
Well,
I'd
she's
say
not
one of the biggest challenges that we will face as a country is the fact that climate change is upon us, and we have to prepare our country for that. One of the projects that we're investing in, for instance, looking into pumped hydro, will mean New Zealand will be able to become 100% renewably charged by our electricity network. Now, what a difference that will make, not just to the opportunities for New Zealand as one of the few places in the world that will be powered by 100% renewable electricity, but also for our exporters, for our reputation, and also wider opportunities around our transport network.
That's just
Those are the
nonsense.
kind
Sorry,
of opportunities.
No, sorry, that's just nonsense.
Judith Collins.
That pumped hydro, $30 million being spent on just a business case. And by the way, all that happens, electricity prices go up. And that's what Ms. Ardern's own experts are telling her. Electricity prices up. We're the third biggest user of renewable energy in the world, and actually that's gone down since in our rates of renewable since Ms. Ardern took office. I'm someone who's owned and run small businesses. What I can tell you, John, small businesses want to know that we're not going to put up electricity prices, but they don't want to see 30% increases in electricity prices, or, as according to the experts, 14% up for residential, big numbers for industrial and
Dealing with our
commercial.
drought-
That's what's happening.
Dealing with our drought,
Jacinda Ardern.
dealing with our drought years, which is what pumped hydro does, and moving us to 100% renewables actually brings the price down.
No, it doesn't.
Now, we have to be realistic about the challenges we face. And John, the challenges that we
I just want to
face-
come in there, and I want to ask you, are we being realistic enough
Yes.
about the challenges
But
we
we
face?
have to be both realistic and hopeful. You know, it can't just be about what absolutely needs to be done now. And yes, the restoration of our hospitals and our education system. But we have to think about what it is going to be like for our kids. Climate change is upon us. We have to grasp this opportunity, use it to create jobs, and pumped hydro creates thousands, but also invest in the problems we already had. Inequality. Let's put food in schools.
We're going to talk.
Housing.
We're going to talk
Let's
about
build
that.
more
And
public
it's so
houses.
important.
People
That's
don't have
the
jobs.
plan.
seen
That's
this
the big issue.
before.
400
I
people
don't
lose their
believe
jobs
in
every day under
Okay,
this government.
we have to take a break. We're going to talk about stimulus and how we create jobs and how we protect jobs,
right,
and
you
we're also
really
going to talk
cut
about
the
inequality.
audio
They are both
again.
very important things. Very quick question before we go. We're talking about our future, and we're talking about young people and their role in it. Should the voting age be lowered to 16, Judith Collins?
No, I don't think it does.
Jacinda Ardern?
I wouldn't rule it out in the future, but let's get civics right first. Let's support our young people to learn about politics.
Is that a yes or a no?
I don't know.
Not
It's
right
like
now.
cannabis. Can't say.
Okay, we've heard our leaders where they want to go,
So,
but we'll be
earlier
taking
today
everyone
she
along. It's just the
said
point around inequality,
no to
isn't it? So
lowering
after
the
the break,
drinking age,
another
but
question for
yes
our leaders. This
to-
is a really challenging one. Stay with
no
us.
to raising the drinking age, but yes to lowering the voting age. I can't deal. I absolutely cannot deal with this woman. Do you feel like we're even having a debate? So far we've heard about a hospital. So far we've heard about a dam. How is this even a leaders debate?
No, Is this supposed to be a series of debates?
Yeah, I think so. And I think that's how maybe there's a big plan behind it. But when I was watching the Democratic primaries, they were like cancer, but they were more interesting than this.
Yes.
So if you're in the chat, please let us know your thoughts if you've been watching along. If you're new here, my name is Jade, and this is my good friend, lovely assistant Hannah.
Hi, everybody.
We were so rushed this afternoon, we didn't even do that. We didn't even do the usual introductions.
Yeah.
So, this is the state of politics in New Zealand.
Yeah, no.
My priorities are helping people to be self-sufficient, helping people to start businesses, helping people to really apply their value to the communities, not just work a 9-to-5 job.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a very general statement, but across the board, that's what I'm about.
Yeah, definitely.
For you?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think...
What about for you, though, specifically?
Supporting others to be able to do for their own. Supporting others to learn and network and grow from one another. And I find that the way that things are currently with our government, it's not right. There's a leader, and we have a system, and people choose not to vote. People do not understand politics. People don't understand how they can make a difference in their community. So not even talking about the government, how can they make a difference? Not even recognising what they can do day to day can make a difference. So they dismiss what they do, and I think we've just got to have a more roundabout understanding on how we individually can support to make a change. I'm not saying I've just completely come to the end of my point, and I'm just like, how do I explain what I'm trying to say? I'm not trying to say in a movie kind of way.
Everyone, it's great to have your company. We've been talking a lot about where we're going and how we're going to get there, what will work and what won't. But the question is, will some people be left behind? And that is what our second question tonight is about. It's a theme that we're going to pick up on and run with, and it comes from a really remarkable young New Zealander.
Talafo lava, alo ingoa o Aingangali Fili Fipule Tapu'i, and I'm a head girl at Aorere College for Mangere in South Auckland. Over the course of this year, due to COVID-19, I've seen a lot of students, including my own friends, sacrificing their youth to provide for their families by dropping out to work. So what are you going to do to ensure that our students' futures are taken care of in the oncoming years, and so none of our students are left behind?
She is a remarkable young woman, and when she tells the story of students having to leave her school, and I've spoken to principals who tell the same story, because they feel that they want to go and work to support mum and dad. It's heartbreaking. Yeah. And none of our children are going to have to do that, are they? Touch wood. So Judith Collins, what is your answer to Fili?
Well, Fili, I understand actually. My husband is Samoan, so Talofa, and he was actually taken out of school when he was 15, ran away to his auntie, who took him back so he could go to school. And that's what happens for many kids who have got a lot of pressure on them because their parents don't have enough money for them. So my view is we've got to get people into trades, we've got to get them educated, but also We have to make sure that we have jobs that people can go to so parents can look after their children rather than the other way around.
I want to come back and pick up on some of that stuff, but Jacinda Ardern, could you respond to Philly?
Well, for Philly, I'd say I don't want any young person feeling like they have to leave school, but I understand how strong that draw would be to support their families. So the first port of call is make sure that their family members have jobs that are earning adequate income to not just survive, but to thrive. And so those young people can be young and continue with their education. Things like keeping up with lifting the minimum wage. You know, we've done that already, and it's made a difference of more than $100 a week for families. Us as government paying a living wage for those who are in jobs like security and cleaning, making sure that those jobs pay. That's what makes a difference to families being able to keep their kids in education.
Having a job is really important.
And of course, no one's going to deny
business owners, and I was one, is that they can't afford constant increases in the minimum wage when they haven't got the money coming through the door.
What is the minimum wage now?
Well, it's not quite $20 an hour. I think it's 18.9 or something like that.
$18.90.
Yeah.
And it's going to go up to $20 in April of next year.
Oh, yep.
If Labor are in government, if Nationals in government, is it?
It's not going to this time.
Okay.
And that's because of the fact that we are in the worst recession in 160 years, according to the Reserve Bank Governor.
So what about your tax cuts? So let's look at people on the minimum wage, because that's what we're talking about now. Let's cut to the chase. You are giving them $8.
Yep.
$8. Why so little? And you say your tax package is about a stimulus package. What we know, one of the first rules of fiscal stimulus is if you want money spent, you give it to low-income people, right? Because they spend the money they get.
Well, of course, people who are on the minimum wage will get a tax cut. It's not enormous.
$8.
But the biggest impact is going to be for the average earner, the $64,000 earner, the people like the nurses, the primary school teachers, because actually, John, they're really suffering, and we believe that that does need to be improved.
Are they suffering more than people on the minimum wage?
Well, actually, John, it is important that we all understand that, John. You're not paid the minimum wage, and nor am I. But the fact is that people do get have qualifications, they've done the sort of work. Are you really seriously saying that primary school teachers should be paid the minimum wage? Because I don't think so.
That's not what I'm saying at all. No.
I shouldn't get a tax cut right now. I shouldn't. You know, my view is that right now, tax cuts, they're simply irresponsible.
Well, give it back then.
When we're looking at what we need, that fund, the fund that it's being drawn from is our COVID Response and Recovery Fund. At the moment, it has $14 billion in it. This will take us
That's all borrowed money.
That's
not fair. It's not fair
to get us
Hold on
through
to
this pandemic.
I just wonder,
it's just not responsible to draw from that.
I just look at your tax policies, you know, it feels to me like you're both on autopilot. The Nats have come out with a tax policy, it's fiscal stimulus, but you're not delivering it to the people most likely to spend it. Labor's come out with an increase of the tops tax rate on people earning over $180,000 a year. It's going to raise $500 million per annum. It is essentially almost meaningless, isn't it? And aren't you both lazily kind of conforming to Labor Party and National Party orthodoxy?
I don't know. Is Ms Ardern going to bring in a capital gains tax? Because that's what she made an issue last time.
Of the Labor Party, which is to support our people. And yes, we have said that actually we do think we need an additional tax rate. We are focusing on the top 2%. 98% of New Zealanders won't be touched because, John, my honest view is, in this time, now is not the time to have huge uncertainty around tax policy, but now is the time to invest in those who are on our lowest wages. We should pay them a living wage.
So how are you investing in them?
Well, as government, whenever we're contracting, we'll pay a living wage. We will keep seeing lifts in the minimum wage. And you have seen, for those on the lowest income who do spend in our economy, we've increased, of course, the winter energy payment, and we had increases to the benefit.
Look, I'm sorry. We've got people losing their jobs, 400 jobs a day from that last lockdown. I mean, it's all very well to talk about increase the minimum wage when people are losing their jobs. And it's, you know, giving away a holiday and things. Well, small business owners can't pay the bills now.
How do you protect their jobs? How do you create new jobs?
Well, for a start, what we do is that we give the people who are going to spend money doing things a stimulus tax cut. And we also, John, this is really important for businesses, is to double their depreciation rate so that they can, only on plant and equipment, so they can get out there, spend some money, start employing people, and that is really important.
I want to come back to this point.
Yeah.
And Brookings Tax Policy Centre said, and I quote, verbatim quote, quote, for fiscal stimulus to work, it is essential that the funds be spent, not saved. You are giving $58 a week to people over $90,000 who are going to save it or put it onto their mortgages, aren't they?
No, they're not. They're going to spend it. Do you know what, John?
How do you know?
People will spend it because, actually, John, there's some of the people losing their jobs every day, by the way. It's really important. People are looking now. They are going to be spending that money, John, just as everyone else. I was asked the other day, what would you do with the extra $50? I said, I'd probably spend it, actually. You know why? Because it is important to get
John,
that
if
economy
we
going.
may.
People
like
understand.
you
know, primary school teachers, they're not the rich. They're not the wealthy. They need a break.
I don't think she's
If I may,
promised the
John,
material,
yes,
but I'm
of
liking
course
what
we
she's
are in an
saying.
economic crisis, but actually the wage subsidy supported 1.7 million New Zealanders. So look, right now we've got roughly 12% of our working age population on government support. At the peak of the GFC, it was 13. So some of those investments have made a huge difference, but I'm not satisfied with that. I want to create jobs as well.
How are you going to?
Well, we've got
Splashy!
to invest, as I've already said, we've got to invest in the kind of infrastructure
Splashy,
that does double
what's
duty.
going on?
Sorry to interrupt.
I haven't
But
seen
if you
Splashy
invest in
in such a long
infrastructure,
time.
and we used the example
Splashy,
before
how
of
you
the
doing?
Auckland, the second harbour crossing, 2028.
If I can,
right.
no,
So-
I'll give you an example.
Welcome
How
to
do you
the
create
stream,
jobs now?
Splashy.
Let me
We're
give you an
getting all
example.
political
Right
tonight.
now, we are demolishing the buildings on the site for Dunedin Hospital. That
Finally.
will be a project
This is
that
the
will
New
create
Zealand leaders
thousands
debate
of
right now.
jobs. We've also invested in
It
a
should have been
shovel-ready
obvious
project
from
to
the title.
train at the tech those in trades training that we need to build that hospital. We get a
What's
double
been going on
whammy
with you,
of
though?
both
We
building
miss
a
you a lot.
facility and training our young people. At the same time, we're subsidising employers to hire apprentices. So
Splashy's
unlike in the
just
GFC
chilling.
when we lost them, we're
Hey,
growing
Splashy.
them. That's
How's
the kind
work
of double
going?
duty I want right now.
Look,
We
we've got-
invest
It's good
in
to see you
skills,
both. How
we
are
build
you?
infrastructure
Right
there,
now.
and we
Judith
create
Really
We've
well.
got a huge
jobs.
sector
Really well.
right now that Miss Ardern doesn't
Glad
even
to
know
be
about,
back
and that's the tech
streaming,
sector.
and
I announced a
I
tech
caught your
policy
stream the
yesterday.
other day.
There's a
I
reason.
love it when
That
you
is
stream.
worth $8 billion
I love it
to
when
us
you
as
stream,
an
you
economy.
need to
That
do
is
it more.
enormous. It's our fourth biggest export. And you know what, John? It's really high-paying jobs. So that's why we're investing in STEM scholarships for
Especially can play
young
shooters.
people
I
from
can't play
low-decile
shooters.
schools. That means to study
really
maths
good at
and
them too.
technology and engineering. That's in science. These are the sorts of things we should be doing, and we could do it now for people right now. $1,000.
How are you going to create jobs
1,000
now?
of those.
How are you going to create jobs now?
Well, we've already got jobs available in the tech sector, but also we need to bring
I was
people in as
mentioning
well.
the tech
PhD
sector
students
earlier.
coming to do 6 months with us in New Zealand, learning new things, but also adding it.
Sorry, how are you going to create jobs now?
Well, they already are. They're being in the tech sector. They're already being created, but we need our New Zealand kids to be up to date with STEM subjects,
you
to
know
actually
what?
learn about science and technology.
let's be-
That's our fourth biggest sector. We put out a big
$5
policy on that yesterday.
a
It's
month.
actually about getting.
Love you both.
Not only we've got
Let's
entrepreneurs
be
right now
Splashy.
wanting to do it, and the
Let's-
ultra fast
Thank you
broadband.
so
That's so
much.
crazy,
We're
especially
realistic.
with us being gone for so
There are
long.
barriers
Really
to
appreciate it.
opportunities now. We need to make sure for
Really
the next
appreciate
generation
it.
that
My
we're
God.
removing any
Really
barriers to
appreciate
them
it.
I'm actually
accessing
getting
the
a little
education
bit
they
emotional.
deserve.
I don't know if
things
you
like
can tell,
making
but
trades training and apprenticeships
we were sort
free,
of, like,
supporting
doing
young
this
people to go
soft
into the
launch,
vocational training where we
like,
need
trying
jobs
to come
like
back,
mental
and I'm
health
like,
workers.
why would
for
anybody
free.
want to come
And
back?
that
Why would
first
anybody
year
want to
of
see
free
us?
tertiary education
We keep
has meant that we
dipping
have now
because,
many
I
first
don't know,
in a
life
generation
Yeah.
or in a
and
family
different
going into
situations
higher
going on,
education.
so-
If we really want
Especially
to
I
create
actually
high
feel
school, high
really
wage
emotional
jobs,
for that.
let's support our young people
Thank
to
you,
get into
Splashy.
them.
You're
Let's
awesome.
You
remove those
can't
barriers
see
as
how
well.
buffy
Just
my
about
eyes
and
are.
Judah
'cause
Collins
of the light, but-
contested with great passion.
Yeah.
Because it matters, doesn't
It
it?
does.
What happens to brilliant young women like Ayanga Lafili really matters.
I hope she's learning science, maths.
Actually, I think she wants to be a climate change engineer.
Oh, well, that's
So
great.
that
We
is-
can find
so
a
that-
job for her.
I support you guys always.
But
Same
the point
goes.
she's making is it
Same
might
goes,
be a
Splashy.
theoretical
Whenever I
exercise
see you
because
go
these
online,
kids don't feel they can
I
afford
always
to go
try
to
to at
university
least
because they're supporting mum
really
and dad,
quickly
right?
say
And
hi,
that's
'cause I
what we're
know
going to talk about
Splashy
after the break.
doesn't
Are you
like
working
streaming
really hard
or
and feeling
whatever,
like you're getting
that's,
nowhere? Do you
like,
ever think
fine.
you'll own a home? Or that your kids will? Are you getting by? Let's get some answers from our leaders to another question after the break.
So we won't take the commercials. Oh, Splashy. Man. I have felt a deep sense of guilt about streaming.
Yeah.
Because we built up to a level where we were getting like 15 viewers a night kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I'll save you the trouble of guessing. We're definitely not there now. But then I had to come back to a place of, it's not actually about the numbers.
No, it's definitely not.
It's about wanting to... It's about wanting to share a message.
Definitely.
So I gave up on the idea of the number. So it's not about the number of viewers for me. It's about being able to come on here and just share and give and support, you know, other people on this platform trying to stream. Yeah. There's no like manual to streaming.
No.
You can Google for days and days and weeks and still not learn everything you need to learn about streaming.
I think there's one other thing that I was going to say that I really do enjoy about streaming is the conversations, collaborating. Yeah, I think that's also great. I think we also just got to a place, you know, yes, we got busy with work, but I started to question my worth. And I think the media just kept on pushing COVID-19. It's just got a bit too much for me.
It got a bit drab.
And it's like, well, what more? I don't want to stream about COVID-19.
Especially since you guys have lives though, and that's completely understandable. So much support. I feel it deep down in my heart, especially. Yeah. Because I really started to feel like I was leading the stream down. Yeah. Because we were actually growing, and it was amazing to see. But then I had this moment with myself where I was like, nope, it's not about growth. Yeah. We need to forget about that, and we just need to go back to enjoyment. Yeah. We need to go back to enjoyment, having fun, meeting people. Stop looking at the numbers. Stop looking at the subs.
And it's also not very fun for you when I keep on having seizures on stream.
Well, it's very fun because we tend to get more viewers when that happens. And up in the chat it normally goes, "She all good, bro." Yeah. Yeah. Is your friend all good?
Yeah. What a way to kill the stream though. Like, hey, don't make it about me like that. No thanks.
Politics. It's interesting, but also not interesting. I feel sorry for Americans. Oh my god, Jade, no. Especially referring to me saying we get more viewers when you see that. Yeah, probably. It's true though. Especially you always thought I'm really rough on you. That I'm mean. I'm not mean.
You're my best friend. You're amazing.
Is this us coming back now?
Yeah, I wonder what it's like.
Welcome back to the One News Leaders Debate. Jacinda Ardern and Judith Collins. It's great to have you both with us. Thank you for being here tonight. These are strange times. Nothing quite makes sense. We are in a recession, jobs are being lost, and there is a housing boom. But then again, there is almost always a housing boom in this country, which is great for those of us who can afford to be part of it. And it's a big but. And here's our next question.
Kia ora koroa, I'm Chris Farrar and I'm the Auckland City Missioner. We are seeing more and more people who are unable to meet basic and daily cost of living expenses.
Now this is how you know
rent,
streams are not real life. If she's calling you an angel, they need to spend a day in my shoes.
Still can't earn enough money
to pay for their basic essential needs for themselves
and their children.
Hannah is by far an angel.
What is your plan for addressing income inadequacy and wealth inequality in New Zealand?
Jacinda Ardern, we're going to give you 30 seconds each to speak to this because this is a big
question
point,
for
and then
the
we'll
chat.
have a broader
I need help understanding what wealth inequality is.
Income households. So Jacinda Ardern first.
Please let me know in the chat if you know what that is, because I know.
I sat and spoke with a number of clients who talked about the fact that they were in new, warm, dry state housing builds. So first of all, I'd say we need to keep rebuilding our state housing stock. We have a plan to add an extra 8,000 to those we've already built. Secondly, we do need to address income inadequacy. I've talked already about the things I believe we need to do around the minimum wage, the fact that we as a government need to make sure we're still continuing to support the living wage, and we have to acknowledge for those looking for work on government support, we have been lifting that as well because we have seen too many children in poverty.
Judith Collins.
Well, I know Chris from the Housing First days when we were in government, and we brought that in to get people off the streets and into housing first, and then to deal with the issues. One of the big things I think is utterly important is the fact that it doesn't matter what's been promised by Mr. Dune an election ago. 16,000 Kiwi build homes have been built by now, and we've got 500. Massive cost in that. But what I say is RMA reform is the #1 issue. I wrote last year to her minister and said I want to help you to sort that out so we can get the planning faster, quicker, speed it up, and houses cheaper. He was sent back basically a one-figure salute, John.
Jade Farrar? Are you really saying RMA is the #1 solution?
Oh, it is. And even Ms Ardern's government has accepted that RMA reform is utterly crucial to planning and getting housing built. But it's really important too, John, is that we don't overdo everything with housing.
Are you answering Chris Farrelly's question at all, or are you just giving me your favourite RMA speech, which I know you enjoy giving?
Well, it's because it's right.
So the question is, though, how do we address? Today I went across to buy some goodies from across the road at the convenience store. The man who served me is paying $720 a week rent. $720 a week rent for a smallest house in Mount Roskill. Yeah. Now, there will be people servicing mortgages who are watching tonight, Jacinda Ardern, who are spending less. He can't save a deposit. How the hell do we deal with this?
Actually, you know, one of the things that we've recognised is exactly that scenario. There will be some families who have the income to support a mortgage in certain places, but, you know, building up that deposit. That's why one of the programs we have is progressive home ownership. And we are starting that work. But I will come back to that other really important area. We need more public housing. You know, I have to say, we started really, though, on the back foot in the fact that National had sold off 6,000.
Public housing,
We've created now over 5,000 public housing places.
Let's talk about that.
The sad tragedy is if we'd been able to build at the pace we are now,
let's talk about accessible housing.
You need to keep going. It is critical to our housing supply and for
sorry, Jacinda Ardern, you finished?
October 2017, the Housing and Urban Development Authority, or the Housing in those days, reported through to Ms Ardern's government saying that they had 5,000 houses in the pipeline being built. Those are the ones she's now claiming. All started under National, all planned, all consented, sorted out under National. And yeah, she can take the credit now. But tell you what, John, we need more housing. We need it faster. We need it cheaper. And one of the ways to do it is actually the RMA. I know you don't like it, but I tell you what, it's the #1 thing that holds back developers. And you know, the other thing, John, in that first lockdown we had for COVID, construction was stopped. Why? We could have actually had houses being built then.
Isn't the capital gains tax the answer to this? Jacinda Ardern, I want to come to you and ask you, you couldn't get a capital gains tax through because your coalition partner didn't want it. Yep. Your coalition partner's polling 2% in the Colmar Brunton One News poll tonight. You said you wouldn't pursue a capital gains tax as long as you were a leader of this party. Do you regret that now?
No, I've tried for 3 elections now, John, and it hasn't been for lack of trying. You know, as a member of the Labour Party, we consistently took a capital gains tax to voters, and at some point, John, you have to accept that voters don't agree with you, and I accepted that.
Would you still like one?
I've already said that I still believe in it, but I have given my word. You will not have a capital gains tax under a Labour government that I lead. But however, John, have I given up on my ambition for housing? No, in fact, first home buyers now make up 25% of the market. That has increased under us. The foreign buyer ban made a difference. Closing tax loopholes made a difference.
Have gone up 27%.
Progressive home ownership will make a difference. We need to keep going, but this is a housing crisis. I can't turn around in 3 years.
This is just too much. Honestly, it's making me laugh. The fact is progressive home ownership was campaigned on by Miss Ardern an election ago, and it hasn't actually eventually eventuate.
What is wrong with the capital gains tax on your second property?
Actually,
you own a second property, don't you?
Yeah, I do.
What's wrong with the capital?
Actually, no, it's not. Well, it's my trust.
Okay.
But yeah, okay.
Okay. So how long has your trust owned the second property?
But you know what, John?
No. How long has your trust?
Since I've been in Wellington, basically.
Okay.
And that's because I live there.
And
because
so,
otherwise,
and so what's wrong with paying a tax on the capital gain on your second property?
Well, I'm not going to say that to people, because you know what? The next thing is KiwiSaver. That gets captured by the capital gains tax. Shares get captured by it. Do people really want to have everything captured by it? And isn't the answer really, John, actually to build more houses? Because you know what, John? It's not as though there's empty houses all over the place everywhere.
I thought there
and
were
the
capital
foreign
gains
buyer
paid
ban, what
on
happened?
stocks.
Actually, house prices went up by 27%. We've had a decrease in immigration, and it's still gone up 27%.
I just want some clarity from you.
Yeah.
You are saying that if house prices have gone up by 27%, not on your family home, but on your second home, there are no circumstances in which you should pay capital gains on that.
On your second home, like
There's no one else earning 27% in this market at the moment, right? Other than homeowners.
Well, that is what Miss Ardern's policies.
No, I'm asking you.
I'm telling you right now, John, I am not putting on a capital gains tax. We're not going to tax our way out of recession. What we are going to do, though, we're going to grow our way out. And I would rather have people wanting to be aspirational and wanting to get ahead rather. And by the way, providing houses for other people to live in as well.
If I may, I've already spoken to the fact that actually I do think things like the foreign buyer ban made a difference. And we can see by the proportion of first home buyers that are now on the market. But if I may, there are some,
Was
not
that
all,
after
of course,
James
some
Cameron
who
bought
will
his
choose to
property?
rent for a time. I want to make sure, though, that people have that choice, that they're not renting because it's the only option.
Are they choosing?
But we
sorry to interrupt, but that's a pejorative term. Are they choosing? Do they have any choice?
No, you've heard me say, not everyone. Some will, but I don't want people to be forced into renting if that's not what they want for themselves. However, for those who do choose to rent, I've also been worried about the standards that they're experiencing in New Zealand. We have needed to make sure that the quality of our housing lifts as well. My point here, John, is yes, it's about first home buyers. It's about low-income families accessing decent, warm, dry housing. And for the rental market, it's about making sure that your home doesn't make you sick. The healthy home standard has been important.
Actually,
the National Party also want to get rid of that.
We've got 20
healthy home standards.
Judith Collins. You know what? 20,000 more people now on the State House waiting list, up from 5,000 when we left government. So don't give me that nonsense.
Healthy home standards?
Yeah,
healthy home standards?
We're the ones who actually started the healthy homes.
I'm sorry, I'm talking about them as they stand now.
Right at the moment, I'd say, I'm not worried about the healthy homes. What I'm worried about is the fact that you can't get rid of an unsocial tenant who causes mayhem in the rest of the street. That's what worries me. And the fact too is that tenants shouldn't be making changes to their rental property unless the landlord agrees to it. These are sorts of things that I don't agree with.
You're not worried about the healthy homes?
No, I'm very happy for people to have healthy homes and that to be promoted. That's why when I was in government and I was the Minister of Energy and Resources, I made sure that we got that help to landlords to get those rental properties sorted. By the way, do you think all the state houses are healthy? Do you think they're all insulated?
No.
Answer is no, they're not.
No.
And
thank you for pointing out the important retrofit work that we're doing.
And that is at how much?
Hundreds of millions.
300,000 per house. Might as well just build a new house.
Well, we've started with Porirua, and that's because that's where we have homes that actually, good quality state homes that with decent retrofit will last another 50 years. And again, this is another example of double duty. We invest in retrofitting those homes, make them warm and dry. We create jobs, we create apprenticeships, and we create warm homes. And that's part of our program too.
It's better to build new ones in many cases. A lot of these state houses have been around since the 1950s and 60s.
And they were good builds.
Actually, no, they were not. They were not. Actually, what I grew up in was it was basically a state house. I tell you what, no, they didn't have insulation and the windows didn't shut. So let's be real here. You need new houses and you need better houses.
Right.
You can be expected to have lost your train of thought at this point.
No, I wouldn't mind a gin, just quietly. No tourism, no foreign students. Our farmers stepping up again for the economy, but they're also our biggest carbon emitters. So how the hell do we get that complex balancing act right? That's what we're going to look at after the break.
This week, there's a double elimination.
So we're going to talk about farmers in the next section. Oh, God.
Yeah.
Never mind. You keep trying to have a more progressive conversation and New Zealand wants to talk about farmers. I suppose every country has to talk about farmers.
Yeah.
But their lobby is amazing. They bore me so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Social housing, complete cock up. No real plan. Just arguing tit for tat, really. I didn't hear specifics, did you? I know I'm pretty ADD and I can interrupt, but did you hear specifics?
I heard Miss Ardern talking about how they're increasing social housing.
They want to build 8,000.
Yeah.
It was 100,000, wasn't it?
Yeah.
They said they were going to build 100,000 houses in their first term. Where'd they get to? 600.
Yeah.
Jeez. That's a promise unkept, eh?
I think, and Judith was talking about increasing what she'd got through was healthy homes, and just rebutting what Jacinda said, really.
It was interesting to know that Judith used to live in the state house.
Yeah.
I'd believe it.
Yeah.
That's what social programs are supposed to do. They're supposed to give you a leg up. They don't do that anymore.
No.
It's weird having the TV come through our headphones.
Yeah, it is weird. And I'm like, yeah, it's paused for everybody else, but that's cool. So can people see it right now? Or
no, I take it off to avoid copyright.
Yeah. It's not just the audio that you take off, it's the visual.
Yeah.
Great.
So they can see us on our normal scene.
Yeah. So it's really interesting to know what's going on.
Who do you think's winning the debate so far?
I can't find a winner right now at all.
Who do you feel is making the strongest points? Jacinda's made a few. I have to give it to her. She has made some strong points. But I feel like Judith has been more matter of fact.
Yes. That's exactly what I was going to say, is she's been more matter of fact. She's actually said some comments that have almost surprised me in a way, that relate very well to actually what could be done, not just appeasing people. I think that's a good way of putting it.
If Jacinda tells us to be kind during the debate, I'm gonna drink Worcestershire. Because I would rather do that than listen to her say that.
So for those who don't know, Jacinda's our current
farming has been the backbone of this country since some clever bugger put a fridge on a ship, right? But with climate change, our relationship with farming is complicated, and it's not always easy for farmers to respond to. So after the tourism has gone, we need them to lift a heavy weight. But, and once again, it's a big but, as explained by our next special guest.
Kia ora, my name's Tracy Brown and I'm a Matamata dairy farmer. Kiwi farmers are world leaders in producing sustainable food and have a key role to play in our post-COVID economic recovery. But in a recent Dairy NZ survey, 62% of farmers said that they or someone on their farm had experienced mental health issues in the last 12 months, with 60% of farmers identifying changing government regulation as the leading cause. We want to play our part in the recovery, but are feeling under pressure. How would you support farmers to farm both sustainably and profitably?
Both sustainably and profitably, Judith Collins.
Yeah, well, Tracy, thank you for that question. I'm a daughter of Matamata dairy farmers as well. I understand that farming is absolutely crucial to our economy, and I also know that New Zealand dairy farmers are the best and most efficient farmers in the world. And of course, greenhouse gases, they produce 0.2% of the world's greenhouse gases from New Zealand to the world. But one of the things we'd do, Tracy, is we'd back you. So we'd back you with science, we'd back you too, and we'd thank you, by the way, for all that riparian planting you've been doing. We'd look after you because we would not bag you and we would not change everything without talking to you about what we needed to do.
Jacinda Ardern.
Well, firstly, given that mental health was raised there, I just want to acknowledge the Rural Support Trust and rural women who do amazing work supporting our rural communities. But on the issue of, change that we are all facing in New Zealand, I absolutely accept that when we're looking at what our export markets are seeking now, they want to know that we are producing our food sustainably, that we're mindful of climate change, biodiversity and water quality, and that creates pressure on all of us. My view is that we've got to do this together. The work we've done this year has been by building consensus, a historic agreement called Huoka Ika Noa, which is all about how we as New Zealand, alongside our farmers, will face our climate challenges. And I'm so proud of that because we did that alongside our farmers and primary producers.
Actually, farmers aren't feeling like that, John. Farmers are feeling like they're begged all the time by this government. Remember dirty dairying? That was the Greens and Labor going into that. John, when I grew up being a dairy farmer's kid, I was so proud. I was proud as punch. And now I've got dairy farmers saying to me, young dairy farmers saying, I'm only a dairy farmer, because they feel that they have got the weight of the world on them.
So how do we get this right? Sorry, Jacinda Ardern.
Our dairy farmers...
No, sorry, Judith Collins,
Why
Jacinda Ardern.
dairy farming?
If I
That's
may,
so
that
random
feels to me
to
like
zoom
the
in on
view of a
dairy
world that has
farming.
passed.
Dairy
When I
farming-
meet with our dairy sector, and I
farming
have to
in
say,
general is a
our primary
diverse
producers
sector.
as a sector, I've probably
So I
met
guess
with
this
more
is
than any other because of this important work. They absolutely see the need for us to be competitive in
why
this
are we
environment.
zooming
We've
in
got
on that?
Australian farmers now talking about climate change. There's an inevitability here we have to face, but they are the ones talking about sustainability.
Well, actually,
they're the ones talking about
what they're
regenerative
also
farming.
talking about-
They're the ones talking about
They're
keeping
also
their
talking about their
waterways
mental
clear
health
for
and the
swimming.
fact that they're sick of being blamed
together,
for everything.
That's where we've been formulating these plans, because actually we need to work past blame. It's about
absolutely
consensus.
infuriating.
Is it
John.
in-
We've
so-
got
and what's infuriating about it?
farmers suffering mental health issues, and they're saying we need help and we want you to support us. And now we're being told by Ms Ardern, oh, well, that's a time of the past. No, it's not. They're already the climate change warriors out there. They're already the ones dealing with climate change more
And
than
that
anyone
was-
else.
and that was my point.
In just a moment, John, they're the most efficient producers of food in the world.
So let's go back to the example you used, which was that we used to say there was dirty dairying. They've improved out of sight, haven't they?
98%.
And there was dirty dairying in this country, wasn't there? Are you denying that?
You know what's really dirty? Are our urban rivers, by the way, John?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Why
absolutely.
don't we talk about that?
So how do we get this right? Because boy, they are shouldering the burden, and boy,
I
we need
love
them
it.
to. But equally, they
These
are
talking
our
points
biggest
that they
greenhouse
have
gas
loaded
emitters, the
in their
agricultural
back
sector.
pocket,
So
eh?
how the hell do we
You
get
know
this
what is
right?
dirty?
Yeah, and
Our
actually
rivers,
cutting
like
Sorry.
it's a
For
big
instance, of course, if we're
achievement.
coming back to climate, let's finish that, and then water obviously came up there. Well, we do that by working together, and that was the agreement that we formed. We found a way that together we will work towards incentivising changes in the way that we farm.
Incentivising how?
Because we have said that we will work towards a pricing mechanism by 2025 that will do that. That is not only a world first, John, but it's a world first that our farmers and primary producers signed up to, because they know if we want to maintain our competitive margins on the world stage, if we want to sell not volume but value, we'll seek out those customers that want to know where their product is coming from.
New Zealand produces 0.17% of the world's carbon emissions. And by the way, John, you talk about agriculture. Well, actually, a whole lot of that is actually in transport. Transport is a huge emitter. And by the way, electric vehicles, electric vehicles are something that we have promoted. Ms Ardern said she was going to have the government fleet, 15,000 cars that are going to be EVs by this time. We've got 108 done. And we are promoting EVs to pay part of that solution. Could
farmers do better?
I think our farmers are doing a brilliant job. And by the way, it is true that governments have to be able to support our farmers.
Two things there.
Jacinda Ardern.
The reality of our emissions profile is that sadly actually 48% is coming from agriculture. I say that not for blame, I say it just because it's reality. Transport's more like 20. But the advantage of us working through a plan on how we'll deal with that as we are means that when the rest of the world starts dealing with its low-hanging fruit like transport, suddenly their emissions profile from food production will look like ours. Already, when I travel internationally, I have leaders say to me, what are you doing on food production to get your emissions down? If we get this right, if we build the tech, if we build the framework, we will have IP to sell to the world because they're looking for solutions. This is an opportunity.
Actually,
it's not a cost anymore.
The Paris Accord, which New Zealand signed up to, which the government I was part of signed up to, we had a caveat in there about it not affecting food production. Because, John, we sell food. That's what we do in the world.
Can I ask you a question? Why did you and David Bennett say freshwater standards gone by lunchtime?
Because actually...
Gone by lunchtime. Why did you say that?
Because some of them will be. And the one that will be, in particular, is the ban on all new irrigation. You know why, John? If you're trying to convert into a, say, avocado orchard, you're going to have irrigation.
Are we getting this right? Are we getting this balance right?
No, I think there's still got to be some work done around that, and we said we'd review them. But I tell you what, we're not going to say no to new avocado orchards or mandarin orchards, and horticulture is a huge area
So you're saying freshwater standards won't be gone by lunchtime?
No, we're saying that some they will be reviewed, and there'll be certain things will be, and I can tell you there will not be a ban on all new irrigation, which is what David Parker was said from Jacinda's government. But actually, do you know what? I think we need to understand that you can't make a one-size-fits-all when you're talking about things like that. Do you want to have avocado orchards or not? I think we should.
Let's come back to the water quality question, because actually this is both an urban challenge, as actually Judith rightly pointed out. There is an urban water quality challenge.
Are we carrying our weight in the urban centres?
Oh, well, we do need to invest
taking our bags to the supermarkets and recycling our plastic? Is that it?
The same expectation around water quality is applying here to urban as it is anywhere else. You know, Auckland Council, for instance, is needing to build a $1 billion piece of infrastructure to make sure that we're separating, stormwater and sewage. So important investment needs to be made. But when it comes to those fresh water standards, I want our waterways to be swimmable again. And I know that actually all our rural communities, that's farmland where their children have swum as well. They want that too. So we're putting in place standards that actually stop the degradation, see material improvements over 5 years, and within a lifetime, we'll see our kids swimming in that water again.
Jacinda Ardern and Judith Collins, thank you. Boy, this has flown by. I don't know what the time is, but...
Can we do it again?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Fun.
Well, I think you are going to do it again with Jessica Mutch Mackay, and that's coming up in a couple of weeks. But... coming up after the break, our final statement from our leaders, and after that we're going to go to Jessica Mutch Mackay. In fact, we've got a panel to assess their performances. Do stay with us.
So we won't stay for the panel, because like whatever.
Here's what tomorrow's looking like with Vodafone and this one weather update.
Hello, a front trackers its way north across the country tomorrow. That brings a spell of wet weather further north to parts of the North Island. We pick up the wet weather. There it is across the far north and west of the South Island the first part of the day. A few spots work their way east to parts of Canterbury. Strong gusty nor'wester. It is mild. A few showers, more occasional rain to the far south, with the main low slowly working in.
So we're supposed to be talking, I got a bit distracted by the console. Farming, irrigation, water, avocados. I don't get it. Just feels like pandering.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is right now, I think. One other thing it's about is carbon emissions. So, and sustainable food
No
production.
government's gonna change carbon emissions. Get a grip.
Yeah. So that would be an interesting fact, but that is not...
It's been good to sit down and watch something, to be fair.
Not a governmental thing, I don't think.
Yeah. I think governments aren't the solution to creating better communities. That is the awkward The boy Kanye. The boy Kanye. I think I know who that is.
Oh, hi.
The boy Kanye, thank you for the follow. LOL. The boy Kanye, get in the chat. Let us know what you've been doing today. How's your day?
What's going down with you?
I like that username. I like that username. Oh, it's Mum. It's my mum. My mum is in the chat.
Hi, Mum. How are you doing?
For the first time ever. Everybody, my mum's in the chat. Donate furiously so she gets mad at me. What are you doing, Mum? This is like really random. I'm gonna have to clip this. Why aren't you just watching the debate on the TV? We're just sitting through the ads. That's why you can't hear anything. Hannah, sit up straight. My mum's in the chat. Hannah got a new top today. Hi from Mum. Yes, donate so you can shout lunch. Oh gosh. Here we go. The debate's back again.
You are with the Leaders Debate. Thank you so much for the pleasure of your company. Jacinda Ardern and Judith Collins, thank you so much for the pleasure of your company. This is the last break. And we're going to get your farewell statements. What's most important to you, Judith Collins, in this country right now?
Right now, the fact that 400 New Zealanders are losing their jobs every day.
What's nice?
The fact that people are losing their jobs, they're losing possibly their houses, they're losing their sense of dignity about what they do for a living. I'm so upset that we've got so many people losing their jobs every day.
Wasn't that an inevitability, though, of... I mean, people are losing their jobs in every country of the world that has been affected by COVID.
You've got to have a plan, John, and we've got a plan. We've got a plan to get people back into work. We've got a plan to get businesses back on their feet, and we've got a plan to create new work.
I want to come to Jacinda Ardern. These aren't the closing statements, by the way. Isn't disadvantage amplified at a time like this? Isn't disadvantage amplified?
Do you know,
so what are you going to do for the people who aren't losing their jobs now, who in fact lost them 12 months ago or 5 years ago, and there's a whole heap of bodies on top of theirs now?
Well, that's why we need to build. That's why we need to actually start these infrastructure projects that were held up for a long time. That's why we supported fast-tracking consents for infrastructure projects. That's why we would actually help to get that done, and we did. And I think it's really important too to remember, John, is that there's a whole lot of people now losing their jobs who never thought they'd be on the dole heap before. They never thought they'd be there.
What's the most important thing to you right now, Jacinda Ardern?
You know, that our plan for the future gives people as much certainty and hope as we can. Because if there's anything right now that people are feeling, I know it's that sense of uncertainty, and in those occasions you need a plan. You need a plan that can already is showing that it's delivering results for people, that people can have trust in, but that also is thinking about not just them in the here and now, but the future and the next generation as well, because I know parents are worried about that too.
And so what is the plan?
Well, as I've said, you know, this is where we pay double duty. We build the infrastructure we need, not just now, but for tomorrow, the things that create jobs. You know, we invest in things like improving our environment through waterway projects that, again, double duty, create jobs and help us protect and improve our environment. We do things like put in free school lunches. Do you know there are 2,000 jobs created by feeding 200,000 kids? That is double duty. That's getting two double wins out of the projects for the future.
Judith Collins, I want to ask you a question. There were 570,000 hardship grants given out in the December quarter. Now, we know hardship grants are when people run out of money, essentially. You have a potential coalition partner in ACT who wants to remove the $25 that the benefit increases that the beneficiaries have received under this government, and I need to say, and I need to put on the record, those $25 increases were way less than the Welfare Expert Advisory Group was calling for. Have you read the Welfare Expert Advisory Group report, Judith?
No, I haven't, but I can tell you this though. I was part of a government that increased benefits for the first time in 43 years, and it is utterly crucial that people who are absolutely in that position, as you say, in hardship, that they are not further put into further hardship.
So would you say to David Seymour, no way that 25
Yeah,
is coming
absolutely.
off?
I want David Seymour to help me sort out the RMA, and that's what I want his votes for. But I can tell you this, John, is if anyone wants a national government, vote national.
Right. Jacinda Ardern, freed from the shackles of New Zealand First, and I've had one minister after another tell me on the record and off, you would have done more in that space had New Zealand First not stymied you. Would you like to implement more of the Welfare Expert Advisory Group policies, should you be Prime Minister after the election?
Well, we've implemented 22 of the recommendations so far, and we have seen, that the changes that we've made have already made a big difference. In fact, the Children's Commissioner himself said that no one had laid the foundations to address child poverty as much as we have of any government in the last 30 years. But there is more to do, and that's why I'm standing here, John. There is more to do. We won't do it overnight. Things that are built up over decades. And so if you're looking for something quick and fast, it will take time. But I still stand by the aspirations that we have around child poverty. We're a country where every child deserves to grow up in a family that can afford to feed them and have a healthy, warm, dry home.
This is nonsense, John.
Free
Last
meals.
election, Miss Ardern stood here and said she came into politics to end child poverty. And what's happened is children are living in material hardship. Those numbers have gone up by 4,100, and that was before COVID-19. So don't give me those figures, because the child poverty numbers, the child poverty index, that actually puts one child against another. It says how are they in terms of inequality, but actually material hardship, that's where a kid can't have shoes in their feet, and there are 151,000 children in this country right now like that.
John, this is
so she's done nothing on it.
Passionate about, so I find it quite
Jacinda Ardern,
difficult
and then
to
we'll
stand
have
by
closing statements.
If I may, when we came into government, of all the measures we use, and we use about 9, 7 of them were getting worse. In the short time we've had, we've improved those to see that 7 are now better. Now, what Judith is talking about is one of those, that is material hardship.
And that's running out of things.
It is fair to say, because that measures things like whether or not you can afford to get your teeth done. It measures whether or not you have a place to do your homework and you have healthy food on the table. So those really direct things we do make a difference there. Food in schools will make a difference there. Those are the kinds of projects that move material hardship. John, I am not done on child poverty, and you have a very stark difference between us as leaders over our plans in that area.
Right, stop. So, I'm so sorry, but we need to get our closing statements. And so Judith, you started the night, so we're going to begin the closing statements, and we will ding a bell. How long? We got 60 seconds. Off you go. You don't have to do the whole thing. We'll ding a bell after 60.
Right. So this election is the most important election in generations, and the reason is you're going to have a stark contrast about whether or not we muddle along and have lots of hopeful thoughts and statements, or whether or not you vote for a party that has a plan. And that plan is to build our economy. We can do it if we have the plan and we have that in place. That is about giving tax cuts immediately to our average earners who at the moment are really struggling. But it's also about building infrastructure. It's also about taking out the Resource Management Act and putting in better legislation that gets houses built. If you want to know one of the reasons that Ms Ardern can't sort out Kiwi Build, is because actually the RMA and the fact that she underestimated just how tough it is to build a house. And if governments can't do it with all the money that they've used from your money, how in the world does anyone else do it? So vote for us, because we're the people who get stuff done.
Jacinda Ardern, now, good God, that was to the bell.
That's it.
Jacinda Ardern, so I think that's your camera over there. It's drifted across if you want to directly address it.
So this has been a really tough time for New Zealand. We've had a terrorist attack, a natural disaster, and a global pandemic. But in those tough times, we have seen the best of us. We've been able to clear high hurdles and face huge challenges because of who we are, but also because we've had a plan. We have a plan now, and it is already making a difference. It's investing in our people to retrain. It's helping our small businesses to rebuild. And it's investing in infrastructure for the future. You need strong and stable government to keep going and delivering on that plan. But we also need our future generations to look back and see a government who made decisions that build a stronger, better New Zealand and that they can be proud of. Now is the time to keep moving. Hoake tono tātou. Let's keep moving.
Jacinda Ardern and Judith Collins, thank you so much for being with us this evening. It's a bloody tough job being a politician. There's a lot of scrutiny, a lot of pressure on the campaign trail, and yet the best politicians have the capacity and the potential to lead us somewhere better. So I really wish you both well. One of you will be Prime Minister after the election, and may whoever it is be as successful as we all deserve. Thank you both for being with us tonight. We appreciate your time, we appreciate your passion, and we appreciate your energy. Good luck, both of you. Thank you.
John.
That's all from our two leaders. I do really wish them well. We'll be back though with our political
ladies and gentlemen of the internet, I'm just going to take a second to kill it on our end, so that we can hear ourselves talk. That is, let me turn up the microphone now. That has been our leaders debate coverage, the first one for 2020. We've been advised that there'll be another one in 2 weeks. I think I'll leave it there for tonight's stream. Thank you to everyone that followed today. Thank you for the subs. If you want to know how to contact the Jade Farrar Show on social media, hit !social in the chat or !Discord. You can join our Discord there as well. But for now, guys, thank you for being a part of the channel. Thank you for being a part of the journey. Please vote for the right person, and
please stay awesome. We'll see you guys in the next one. I hope you guys are along tomorrow. I won't be there, but Jade and Simon will be there.
Yeah, before I go, we got the stream with Simon, so be sure to check that out. We're going to be breaking down some of the latest news, current events, and just general interesting topics. Simon Anderson, you've seen him before. We'll be live here again at 5:30 tomorrow. Thanks, guys.
That's your New Zealand Standard Time. See you guys tomorrow. Bye.
Bye.